Good health and well being begins with self care, and relationships with others. The Truth Framework teach, reach, transform, unite, and heal is designed to increase access and implement structural components from the knowledge base level to cultivating human relationships through understanding self empowerment and the empowerment of others in personal practices and programmatic implementation as a catalyst for change. The Truth Framework helps individuals explore how they are adversely affected by the socio complex challenges rooted in structural inequities of policy, community, and reoccurring practices. Therefore, by supporting individuality, making the appropriate adjustments, and examining program design configurations, we make connectors for promoting health and wellness in the workplace, in the community, and society. Hence, we find ways to revise our practices to promote culturally inclusive environments. We explore ways to revise our recruiting, hiring, promotion, admission procedures, and our teaching and learning practices to include culturally relevant perspectives in our search teams, our faculty, and our staff behaviors, and our relationships with people in society. We also ask how we can include a diversity of races, ethnicities, heritage, gender, accessibility, religious beliefs, and our curricular content, our campus events, our social settings beyond designated holidays. Culturally aware leaders, culturally aware people, culturally aware humans recognize factors that affect culturally influenced behaviors by merging social, interpersonal beliefs and values of difference to build a responsive community culture. They provide environments that invite opportunities for increased sharing and learning of self and others. The first stage of Teach on the Truth Framework is to challenge deficit assumptions. Identify ways in which our personal biases, whether they are seen or unseen, and our microaggressions occur in social contexts. For example, in academia, one may say females don't belong in a math class. Non-white students can't speak or write good English. Refusing to identify a student by a personal preferred pronoun, they. Therefore, you encourage male students to take advanced math classes while criticizing female students for enrolling in advanced math courses. You praise non-white students on their use of good English while focusing on or engaging in favoring one gender or class or race of students, only to ignore other students during class from participating in classroom or campus events. One strategy of the Truth Framework is to connect and communicate the obvious and the unexamined in order to welcome difference. The second stage of Teach on the Truth Framework starts with self-examination. Self-examination in various meaningful ways. For example, how do you define inclusive? Does your response rattle off a whole bunch of identity markers? Or do you demonstrate an understanding of differing? How is your body language? Or how do you respond if asked, what does inclusion look like? This could promote understandings about how individuals from underrepresented populations could perceive or be perceived if inclusion is a priority. How would they be treated? Or what considerations does a faculty member, a staff member, or a community member make to promote racially, ethnically accessible, and gender inclusive talents? How do we promote collaboration? How do we incorporate the voices and vision and inclusion of others by embracing the human experience? The third stage of the Teach on the Truth Framework invites us to explore ways to adjust to adaptive, inclusive, and equitable practices toward building a culturally inclusive community where every person engages and recognizes that it takes intentionality and action to acknowledge the traditions, values, culture, and beliefs to the barriers that prevent one from leveraging the playing field for all involved in their space and environment. Teach of the Truth Framework requires each of us to move from spaces of positionality of power and privilege to universal spaces of plurality of perspectives. The fear of control in ideology and comfort is at play here. This is where we learn from others to activate change. So today, I tell you my story because we all have a story. We bring our agency, we bring our race, we bring our gender, we bring our age, we bring other identities. So today I bring to you my background, my social, academic, and lived experiences. Who am I? What makes me me? I grew up reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, followed by a daily prayer. My father was in the Air Force, and I remember saluting at 5 o'clock every evening when the music played as the flag was lowered on base. My great grandfather was white. My great grandmother was the daughter of a Creek Indian chief. Rosa and Raymond Parks were their neighbors. I was mentored by E.D. Nixon, who brought Martin Luther King to Montgomery, Alabama at the age of 14. I was the youngest to hold membership in the Montgomery Improvement Association. My mentors, E.D. Nixon, civil rights leader, and Bertram Martin, HBCU theater professor, instilled in me to live a life of purpose and lead the fight in educational social justice for Black youth in urban communities. These are the lessons that I carry with me. I learned from their example. Learn everything, miss nothing. Care for everything, abuse nothing. Know everything, neglect nothing. I believe that we all have the civil right to be educated. And over 30 years or 40 plus years of experience focusing on racial and cultural equity implemented in arts integrated pedagogy, using cultural initiatives, I designed a framework, hopefully, to improve practices in our workforce, in our schools, and in our community. These practices, as seen in truth, hopefully will provide an understanding to work within our own networks. Because usually when people think about differences in people, they think about a range of social groups. They think about race, religion, gender orientation, and physical and mental abilities. Truth is about self. Truth is about healing. It's about human behavior. This is important for every person, in every sector, in every community, every day. One vehicle to use when applying the Truth Framework is arts integration, which provides meaningful solutions for sustaining cultures through vision, voices, and values. Arts integration, as defined by the Center of Paint at the University of South Florida, is a diversity of knowledge, programs, experiences, and aspirations that bring meaning to ideas and content through the arts and human interactions. Applying this definition to the Truth Framework involves the understanding of varied perspectives, behaviors, and experiences through vision, voice, and values. The Truth Framework takes one to discover better ways of identifying with the dis-ease of working with individuals of difference and differing abilities, who may find themselves all alone in their own little corners, all alone in their own little chair. We want to make sure that as we look at people who understand what invisible feels like, we recognize that they are a part of humanity, even in environments of difference. Truth allows us to contribute to the process of being human, to the process of bringing value-added visions and voices of stories, of likes, of dislikes, to drive change. Inclusion welcomes a sense of belonging. Diversity requires everyone to create a culture of welcoming and belonging, to ensure that we have a community of experiences and perspectives to build good health and well-being. Maya Angelou said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." When you explore the levels of truth, you make a commitment to enhance the social development, multiple perspectives, and global awareness. In a recent article entitled "Using the Truth Framework to Advance Inclusive and Equitable Pedagogy in Education, Advancing Research and Innovation in the STEM Education of Pre-Service Teachers in High-Need School Districts in ARISE," this provides examples of how to develop impact, how to make meaningful practices that address the diverse perspectives, populations, and positionality in our communities. More important, Truth outlines some approaches toward cultural change with intentionality. That is, making significant changes in one's personal behaviors to reduce anxiety of yourself by embracing racial and ethnic groups, bridging theory and practice to help others gain a better sense of understanding themselves and others. We take the responsibility to make an impact, to listen, to see, and to hear the voices and perspectives of others. So where do we go from here? Using the Truth Framework advances inclusive and equitable practices in all aspects of society. The inclusion of all voices and vision, the diversity of people and perspectives, and equity in policies and practices help one grow and learn about different cultures, which include communication, collaboration, connection, and commitment when answering the larger questions of what good health and wellness means when we bring a variety of interactions related to the backgrounds, styles, perspectives, values, and beliefs as assets of people seeking to explore structural changes in groups and organizations. Own your truth. Make it a better world. 'Cause it's a wonderful world.